Good evening, everyone. My name is Peter. I'm your moderator for this weekend. Please, in the chat box, can you confirm if you can hear me clearly to the student? Show me in the chat box that you can hear me. All right, Adiza. Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So, like I said, I'm your moderator for this weekend. Happy International Women's Day to everyone, to all the women in the house. And right in time, our facilitator just got okay. Our facilitator just got I think we'll go straight to the class. But before we go straight into class, I'm going to read out the bio of our facilitator. Chairpersons and party members, get your other party members. Okay, get all your other party members into the class so that they won't miss anything. I'll go ahead now and read the bio of our facilitator. Uchechi is a legal practitioner, an HR professional with a key focus on technology, law, and regulatory compliance. She serves as a legal consultant to the foremost inter-country adoption agency in Nigeria, Life Foundation and Dang Lifestyle. She is the head legal consultant of Zoe Legal, a corporate, commercial, and startup legal advisory firm in Lagos State. She has worked with several local and international bodies on fintech, lifestyle, telecommunications, employment law, and immigration. In addition to her legal practice, she is very keen on public advocacy and the education of Nigerian youth on politics and governance. She is also called to the Nigerian bar and has obtained an LLM in international commercial law from the University of Hertfordshire. She runs a podcast called Zoe Legal, where she speaks on legal issues and is keen on using her platform to encourage awareness and education among the masses. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our facilitator for today. And Uche, you have the floor.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much, Peter, for that warm welcome.
Welcome.
And happy International Women's Day to all the beautiful ladies and to all the men that take care of the beautiful ladies. I greet you all. It's a pleasure to be here. Always a pleasure to be with the Electoral College. Please permit me. I am a bit under the weather today, so I will be off screen, but notwithstanding, I hope for an engaging class. Thank you, everyone. Hi, Lisa. Hi. I'm trying to see if I know anyone. I feel like I've graduated from Electoral College for so long that I can't recognize any name anymore. Only Lisa. Okay, I think.
Hi,
Anyway.
welcome, Uchechi. It's great to have you.
Hi, thank you. Thank you. All right. So can you please indicate if you can see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right, awesome. All right. Hi everyone once again. Thank you for being here. So just a note of encouragement to all who are here. This is a very fantastic opportunity. I was once in your shoes. Electoral College does so much in terms of training people on political and civic responsibilities, just knowing, you know, what your footing is in a country like Nigeria. And you agree with me that more than ever, it's become very important to be politically aware, so that you can engage rightly, you can make meaningful, intelligent arguments, you can, lend your voice as well to the building of our beautiful nation, Nigeria. All right, that being said, my topic is the Nigerian Constitution and citizens' rights. So this is going to be very quick. I have sort of revamped my slides. I used to use a particular slide, but I've revamped it, so it's going to be very, very quick. All right, so quick question. What comes to mind when you hear the Nigerian Constitution? Any takers? I like my class to be quite interactive. So please, I'd like to hear your voices. When you hear the words, the Nigerian Constitution, what comes to mind? It could be a feeling, it could be the definition, it could be a person. I'd like to hear from the class.
Do you want them to raise their hands or chat box?
Yeah, however it is most organized. So you can raise your hand, you can unmute. Please feel free.
I'll take Stephen to unmute now.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Stephen Alishinaba. I'm from Benue State. Anytime I hear the word constitution, I imagine a book that all the rules and regulations that run a country are compiled. So whatever you need to know about how a country is run are contained in its constitution. That's my take.
All right, thank you.
Beautiful. Thank
Any
you.
other hand?
Anyone else?
I don't see any other hand. My dad. Anyone? Chat box.
Anyone else?
Okay, I can see Mohammed Lawal. Mohammed Lawal, please unmute.
Hello.
Hi, I
We
can
can
hear
hear you.
you.
Can
Please
you
go
hear
on.
me?
Yes.
Loud and clear.
Yes, to me, the Constitution is a written document that contains
I
Mohammed,
can barely
your
hear you.
network is bad. Please get it sorted. Olusegun Nelson, please
Yeah,
unmute.
hello. Yeah, good evening, everyone.
Hi. Good
Yeah,
evening.
thank you, facilitator. You most welcome and happy International Women's Day to you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, I think to me, I believe what comes to mind when we say or talk about the Nigerian Constitution, I think is the supreme law, or let me use the word law, guiding the governance of a particular nation, a country called Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that'll be all. Thank you very much for your wonderful contributions. I think everyone that spoke is right on track with the session. So this person drawing stuff on my screen, I can see you drawing it. So please, if you don't mind, don't draw stuff on the screen because it's showing for everybody. All right. So the goal of this session, the goal of this class basically is, so hold on a bit. My screen is frozen. Okay. To understand the Nigerian Constitution as the foundation of governance, to explore citizens' civic and political rights, to discuss how Nigerians can protect and exercise their rights, and then why political education matters. Obviously, we all know, like we've heard from the persons that have spoken, the Constitution shapes governance, elections, and citizens' participation. And a lot of Nigerians are unaware of their rights, leading to exploitation, right? So a session like this is important because you're able to not only understand, but also appreciate the importance of the Constitution and why you should equip yourself with adequate knowledge. You would also understand that it's not until you're being elected in an official position, it's not until the point where you're voting, right, that you should know about your rights. There are different scenarios, and we will explore that as we go. All right, so understanding the Nigerian Constitution. What's the Constitution? The two persons who spoke already covered that it is the supreme law that outlines the rights of citizens and government powers, establishes how leaders are elected, laws are made, and justice is served. So this brief definition sort of covers everything you can think of when it comes to the political landscape of a country or a state, right? First of all, the Constitution is like the Bible, is like what the Bible is to Christians, is what the Constitution is to a nation. In law school, we used to refer to it as the grand norm, the grandfather of all laws. That is where every law finds their legitimacy, every law finds their legality as well. And if your regulation or your state's laws are in contravention to any provision of the Constitution, it is voidable or void to the degree of that contravention, right? So you have to understand that the Nigerian Constitution is the most important rule book of laws that outlines how your rights as a citizen and how your government, governs governs us as a people. It establishes how people come into power, how laws are made, and justice is served. So when you have arguments like people asking what the vice president is doing in a particular situation, and you're unaware that the office of the vice president is actually specified, its powers, its authority, how it even comes in, if at all, they are all specified, specifically written in the Constitution, and whoever is elected into office in that position cannot do anything outside of those powers. These are important things that we should learn and know, because sometimes when you listen to some arguments, you realize that a lot of people probably don't even understand what each position means, right? Also, we come to the separation of powers. You have the judiciary, you have the executive, you have the legislative. There is a proper separation of powers. The executive cannot go and be doing what the judiciary is expected to do. You cannot accuse the legislature of doing not doing what the judiciary is expected to do. So adequate knowledge of these terms are very important. Now we have, obviously, the Nigerian Constitution has evolved right from the colonial times. It has evolved up to what we now have today as the 1999 Constitution. And that's, we can say, is the foundation of our democracy. A democracy is a government that is put in place by the people, right? It's a free, it's supposed to be a free and fair, state of political life in a particular country, right? That is the idea of a democracy, that okay, we have all come together and we've all agreed that this is how we want to be governed. These are the people that we want to govern us, and that's why we have things like elections. It is not in every society that they actually have elections. Some societies are they practice socialism. Some societies practice monarchical systems of government. Some societies even practice dictatorships, right? Some societies, they have different sort of systems of government in place. There's a parliamentary system of government as well. However, for a democratic system of government, the foundation is usually a rule book containing laws, rules, regulations, where the citizens themselves have agreed to abide by. That's why when you open the Constitution, you see a preamble saying, "We the people," right? Not one person, not a group of people. We the people. That means that you and I, we have agreed that this is what we will abide by as a country, right? So down to the structure of the Nigerian Constitution. It's divided into several parts. We have the preamble, we have the chapters, which includes the fundamental human rights, chapter 4. And then we also have the separation of powers, like I mentioned earlier, the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. And then we have the electoral processes and governance. So all of these are in different sections of the Nigerian Constitution. We don't really have much time to go through each of these sections, but we're going to narrow down our talk today to focus on political and civic rights of the people of Nigeria. And I also want to mention that these are only synonymous with the Nigerian citizen. Obviously, an American citizen is not bound by these. They don't come under this right. They cannot apply this right. They cannot even claim these rights. These are our rights by virtue of the fact that we are Nigerian citizens, right? So, for instance, the right to vote is not applicable to everyone in the world. It depends on who's that person? Drawing stuff on my screen. Omo Noah Ewa. Thank you very much. Very artistic. Thank you. All right. So let's go over to why should you care? Why should you care about the Constitution? What's your business? I mean, you can make your money, you can be a businessman, you can be a businesswoman, make your money silently and go your way. Why should you care? Right? All right. So these are the reasons why you should care. Because the Constitution influences how leaders rule. The Constitution influences the laws that affect your business. The Constitution influences how you live in a certain environment, right? It influences how elections are conducted and how justice is served. Understanding it also helps you with demanding accountability, right? Understanding your rights and what is applicable to you helps you in knowing, okay, what can I even demand for? What can I even emphasize on? What can I even shine light on? What can I expose? What can I speak on? Where are my boundaries? How far can I take this? So it's very important, not only that you should care about your rights, but you should not have political apathy, right? No matter how much we condemn every year, every political year, no matter how frustrated we are, these things affect us. These decisions, they affect us, right? Whether positively or negatively. So it is our responsibility to act as watchdogs, right? To educate ourselves and to come again even more equipped, even more ready, right, to face whatever comes with the political landscape in our nation, right? So you should care because the Constitution influences you. The rights that are stated there influences you and I. It influences governance, it influences our leaders. So we should all care. All right. So we're going to talk about our civic and political rights. What are your civic and political rights? They are rights that allow you to participate in governance. They're the rights that allow you to even have a say in the governance of your nation, Nigeria. They are the rights that allow you, the ability to be heard as a citizen of Nigeria. So I'm just going to go through each of the sections in the Constitution very quickly. I'm just going to put them out line by line. So we have the right to life. Generally, everyone has the right to life. If you're not infringing on anyone's rights in a criminal manner, you obviously have a right to live, right? How does this relate to civic and political rights? Obviously, you should be protected against extrajudicial killings. No one has the right to take anyone's life for any political matter whatsoever. You have the right to personal liberty, no unlawful arrest or detention. Obviously, if you're arrested, you should be able to defend or you should be able to apply these personal liberties that, oh, why are you arresting me? I have a right to know exactly why, because if it's not lawful, if it's not something, or I've not infringed on anyone's property or whatever, you should not have a right to arrest me. Now, this is where having legal help or assistance comes in, because there are ways to go about defending these rights, but we'll get to that later. Right to fair hearing. Obviously, you have a right to be heard. You have a right to a lawyer and a fair trial. Like we would say in court, everyone is innocent until proven guilty, right? So you have a right to be heard. If you've been accused of something, you should obviously go through the procedure and the process of a fair trial before there is a conviction or an acquittal. We also have the freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. You shouldn't be forced into any political or religious beliefs. You have the right to make up your mind, gather your information, gather your facts, and belong to any political party or religious association, as the case may be. Freedom of expression and the press. There's freedom of speech, obviously. And I would also point out at this point that there are limits to every right, right? The rights are not, they are not, what's the word? They are not absolute, right? Every right would always have its specifications. It would always have its limits, right? So you can say, oh, I have this freedom of expression, but your freedom of expression should not turn libelous, or it should not be slander. You should not start saying false things about people, because then you would then be infringing on another person's rights, and that would give rise to a cause of action. So rights are, as much as they are freely given to you, they are also very they come within the confines of limits, right? You can say you have a right to move around, you have a right to go here and there, but you don't have a right to trespass on other people's properties. You don't have a right to block public ways. So you're protesting, you're moving around, but you can't then block, a public way, because now you're infringing on another person's right to move around, right? So these are the things that we should obviously consider in our quest to know our rights. There is also the right to peaceful assembly. You have a right to join a protest as long as it is peaceful, join an association as long as it is not criminal in its goals, or it is not against public interest or public security or national security. Obviously, you have a right to join the associations that you want to, the political parties, to participate in rallies and things like that. All right, so there's a right to freedom of movement. I've already talked about this as well. There's no unlawful restrictions on travel. Obviously, if you are a person of interest, or you're a person that has been convicted, your rights are obviously limited, right? You cannot move around. But as a citizen of Nigeria, all things being equal, you have a freedom of movement. And like I mentioned, these rights are not absolute. They have their limitations as well. You have a freedom from discrimination. No unfair treatment based on your gender. Because you're a woman, because you're a lady, you should not be discriminated against. I mean, these conversations have come up now more than ever about the unfair treatment and the discrimination that happens in most spaces, really, workspaces, political spaces. These conversations are being had, but it is important to know that it's also enshrined in our constitution. You should not be treated unfairly based on your gender, based on your tribe or religion. Right to participate in government. You have a right to vote. You have a right to be voted for. And you also have a right to hold leaders accountable. And I particularly love this last point, because we sometimes think that our work ends when we have voted or we have been voted for. No, it continues onwards. You have a right to hold a torch to your leader, the people that you have voted for. Yes, you said you would do this and this and this, and we finally voted you into office. Now do it. Now you're being held accountable. And even as the opposition party, maybe your candidate was not the one that won. That still does not mean that your work stops when they're voted or when they are in office. You still have the duty as the opposition to apply pressure, demand to see the changes or the development or the coming to life of what they have promised. Because even if your candidate is not the one that is in office, they essentially still have authority over everyone. They have that, the leadership extends to all of us. So we all have that ongoing duty to hold our leaders accountable, even while they have been voted into office. Now, this is how civil and political rights can be seen in our everyday life, can be seen in practice. Civic rights, the right to access public services. So you have a right to access healthcare and education. Obviously, you should not be discriminated against based on any sort of factor. You should be able to access these things at your own will. Obviously, there are places that have sort of like requirements, but these requirements should not be discriminatory, right? Because there was a time I heard about, some spaces, some restaurants owned by foreigners, and they were restricting it. They were restricting Nigerians from entering. Trust Nigerians, they call them out. That's obviously very discriminatory. You shouldn't discriminate people based on the color of their skin or their tribe or their ethnicity, right? We have the right as well to
Is it just me or we can't hear her again? Can anyone hear me?
Yeah, we can't hear her. Maybe her network.
Madam Uche, if you are there, we can't hear you anymore. Okay, she's no longer there. Please bear with us. Okay, she's back. All right. Welcome back.
Apologies. I was going on and on. I don't even know where you guys stopped. Please, can you help me with where it's I lost internet. Peter, please, can you help me with where it disconnected? I'm not sure. You're muted.
You're
Did we?
talking about civic rights,
Okay.
political and civic rights.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So, so political rights, I've covered that already. The right to vote and be voted for, freedom of political association. So you're free to join any political party. You have the right to run for public office, and you have the right to participate in electoral debates through town halls, rallies, etc. And I would also take this time to mention the electoral regulations, electoral acts guidelines, where you have the right to know the information on any election going on, the time, the dates, the venue. All those things should be very public. It cannot be reserved for a select few. You have the right to also privacy when you're voting. That's why you always see that box that covers you. So you're not obligated to share voting information to anyone. Oh, this is who I vote. No, that's no one's business. As long as you're an adult, you're eligible to vote, you have a right to privacy when you are casting your vote. You also have a right to participate as well. And I mean to be voted as well. I mean, if you're qualified, you buy the tickets and all the things, you are eligible, fully eligible. You have the right to participate and be voted for as well. Yeah, so that will cover the civil and political rights in practice. Now, how are these rights violated in Nigeria? I want to talk about this because I know that this is usually what is always on people's minds when we have these classes. I'm not oblivious to the fact that these rights, the applicability and implementation of them is less than desirable. There are lots of issues here and there. There's the issue of police brutality. There's the issue of voter suppression. I mean, there was so much being said in the last election, right? And there's also the issue of media censorship, journalists being arrested, and all these conversations around, suppressing the media and the like. So these are all forms of violation of these rights. These rights are actually not supposed to be violated. These rights are free. These rights are the exclusive of every citizen in Nigeria. So I know that these are things that we definitely want to talk about. So, how far are these rights being implemented? How far are these rights even being, practiced? All right, so I'll now go on to how to protect and enforce your rights as a citizen of Nigeria, how to demand your rights, report violations to court. I think the court is one of the major ways where we find you get redress for any infringement of your rights. I know that people are very desensitized about the judiciary in Nigeria, but the truth is that based on our constitution, one of the most, productive ways that you can get your rights reinstated is through the courts. I know that a lot of states, I've practiced law in at least 2 states in Nigeria. Comparatively, Lagos has done quite a lot in terms of reforms. Now we have the multi-door courts channel where it's not as expensive, it's not as time consuming, it is not as public, right? And it's very largely informal, not as rigorous and demanding as litigation. So I would definitely say report violations to the courts. Or now we have human rights organizations. Not that we have them now, but we're beginning to see some traction there. We have SERAP, we have Amnesty International, and then the media seems to be a very important tool that people use these days. But I always say, even while you're using the media, try and apply other legal means to it. So you want to talk about someone maybe harassing you or discriminating against you based on your gender. As a lawyer, I would advise that you get your facts together, because there's something that the media does. It sensationalizes things, and it makes things appear as though you can actually win momentum outside of evidence. The truth is that to prove any case, you need to have your facts together. You need to have either it is a recording or a text message or a picture, because when you are presenting this in front of a judiciary or a court, those would be the things that you need to prove. You can't just claim something without adequate proof, without sufficient proof, right? The law is based on facts and evidence, right? So even while we are going to the media and putting out statements, as much as possible at the back end, build your case with factual evidence, right? If you claim your rights have been violated, build your case with factual evidence. If you have contracts, get it together. If you have text messages, put them all together. Participate in elections to vote for good leadership. That's just the truth. No matter how bad we might what our experiences are in elections, you still have to participate, because the truth is that the more you participate, the more possibility of a change happening. If you sit back and you are, desensitized, it will still affect you at the end of the day. So it's like a catch 22. If you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. But really, I would say that most of these Western countries that we look up to, they all started from somewhere. They all started from somewhere, and gradually, you may not look like it, but there are changes that are happening. There are lots of voices that are rising up. There are lots of conversations that are being had. This is not how it was in the past. In the past, you just wake up one day and someone is president and you just have to go by. You don't even have mediums of expressing your opinion. You don't even know if the people that the possibility of change is even something on another person's mind. But now you find conversations being had. People are even nursing possibilities of change. And the more we participate, the more these things grow. So I would say improve, continue to come out, continue to participate, because that's the only way you ensure that good leadership is put in place. There's no one is going to come and say, oh, okay, this is the person you like, okay, sorry, or yeah, take. No, it's still by election. That's the only way. Hold leaders accountable through petitions, protests, and activism. Like I mentioned, the work of the opposition does not stop after election. They still need to be held accountable. This is, you have conversation. There are still bills to be made, to be put across. There are still changes that, amendments to already existing laws that still need to be done. So the conversation does not start and end during election or after it. You have to continue making those changes by lending your voice, writing petitions, protesting, engaging in activism, all within the confines of the law. Nothing illegal, nothing, destructive, all peaceful and within the confines of the law. These are legal avenues for redress. The Fundamental Rights Enforcement Procedure allows you to seek redress for violations. There was a time when those rights were not justiciable, but now with this FREP procedure, you are now allowed, you're able to seek for redress for any violation. And this is where lawyers and legal aid services are available to you. It's important to get legal advice. It's important to get educated, informed, so that you know what to do, how to do it, and when to do it. These are examples of rights enforcement in Nigeria. The time with the NSAS protest, a lot of people would say that this was not successful, but I mean, the conversations are still being had now. I say it was a success. I say it was a huge success because it did something. It shifted something. It brought up a conversation that never was a possibility. It showed that the citizens could actually demand for something, and the government would respond to it either way, right? Then we have the electoral reforms. Obviously, we've seen the reforms that have come into our electoral act, and that's because the citizens pushed for better electoral processes. Press freedom, we've seen also with the rise of social media, people challenging government censorship. The time when I think there was a ban on Twitter, there's a lot of uproar, and that was obviously reinstated. All right, that's about the last of the class. I just have a few questions, which I'm sure a couple of you would have something to share about. So one is, what rights do you think are most violated in Nigeria? Okay, go ahead, Mohammed Lawal.
All right. Mohammed Lawal, I've asked you to think.
Yes. To me, I think the most violated right in Nigeria is detention. The Constitution of Nigeria says you shouldn't be detained for more than 24 hours. But today in Nigeria, when you go to police station, you see so many people there for more than a week, some 3 days, some. So I think it is the most violated right in Nigeria. Thank you.
I can barely hear you, Mohammed. What's the right? Just mention the right that you're referring to, because I could barely hear you.
He mentioned detention.
I,
Said
I,
people
I
get
said it's detention. You know, what detention for more than 24 hours.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I actually agree. There's a lot of funny things that happen when people are detained. They say police bribery, what's it called? Bail is free, but in practice, it's usually not. Okay, Glory Adebayo. Let's have a lady this time.
Glory Adebayo is not a lady, but
Oh, okay. Interesting name.
Should I allow him?
Yes.
Glory Adebayo, please come in.
All right, good evening. Thank you very much. Glory is actually a male. All right, so I think the most violated law right is the freedom to expression. Most lately, we see that there are some conversations that comes up, and before you know it, there is a kind of when you express yourself and maybe via media, via uh,
Glory, your network is crappy, please.
Oh, thank God. I thought it was my network.
protest or so there's police everywhere, there's military everywhere just to curtail all of that.
Okay, so if I heard you clearly, Glory, you said freedom of expression. I don't know. Well, I guess comparatively, Nigeria is quite liberal with expression. Oh. If you compare it to some of these other countries, you'll be surprised. Even the US, there's a lot of media manipulation in the US. You're not really allowed to say a lot, And I don't know if you know this lady called Candace Owens. There's a lot of funny dealings with the media and freedom of expression. But okay, I hear you. Let's have Olusegun Nelson.
Olusegun Nelson. I've asked you to unmute, please.
Okay.
Nelson.
Okay, hello, can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, thank you very much. I think is freedom of assembly coming together to protect towards certain issues, probably to protect us against the government. Because in the past, I can take us to during the NSAS protest, we can see what happened during that period. A lot of people were denied their right to express their mind towards that protest. I think it's a freedom of assembly. Thank you.
For International Women's Day, maybe we should take Julia. There's a lady here.
Yeah, I'd love for us to take a lady, but just to speak on Olusegun's point, freedom of assembly. So I would say that that's debatable. One, because I mentioned that rights are not absolute, right? So as much as possible, we have to still be within the limits of that right. There's a freedom of assembly, but it should not now be an obstruction to other people's rights. So if you're assembling in a public place where people are passing, right, where citizens want to go to their offices and things like that, obviously they'll also make a case that this person is infringing on my own rights, and the executive, they have the authority to ensure that the traffic is moving and things are adequately moving in that space. So you can gather, but peaceably. And if they notice or if they get any tip that some people are actually going to use this protest and execute some criminal activities, they obviously want to come in. Not saying that that's always the case, but what I'm driving at is that these rights, they are not entirely absolute. They are still within confines of some limitations. But let's take a lady this time. Margaret Amodu.
Margaret Amodu, I've asked you to go on.
Okay, good evening. Well, I beg to differ. I feel the most violated right in Nigeria currently is right to life. Because in my mother's village currently, they don't go to the farm. They can't go to the farm. They can't really do anything to sustain themselves. So I feel that that's the most violated right. Someone that you cannot live in your house peacefully again. You can't access your farms. You can't do anything. Even state and non-state actors, you are a threat to them, right? Like for example, the incidents that happened in Zamfara and in Sokoto states where security forces bombed some villages. So I feel like right to life is like the most violated right by both state security actors and non-actors, by the bandits and the rest of them. Is it those clamoring for agitation in the Niger Delta and the likes? So I feel that that's the most violated currently. That's my stance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Margaret, for sharing. I think that's so interesting. Do you mind telling me where the states that you're referring to? What state is it?
You mentioned Sokoto and
Wow, Sokoto. That's so interesting because again, these things will differ for people in different sides of the country. So it's very important that we also bear in mind that our experiences differ, in different parts of the country, and also to even appreciate what other people have to face, where they are. Some of these rights are very much violated in some parts of the country. And so it's really sad to hear that right to life is a major one, because I mean that's really, really, really bad. Okay, let's take one more girl and then we can move on to the next question. I'm hoping Juliet is a girl.
yes,
Hello, good evening.
Hi,
Yes,
good evening.
good evening, everybody. Uche, good evening. Thank you for the wonderful facilitation. I just want to toe the line of the penultimate person who spoke to the issue of protests and right to peaceful assembly. That's number one, and also right to fair hearing. These are for me the two major rights that are being infringed on in Nigeria. And why do I say so? Most people who gather for protest, even before you set out for the protest, there are some things that may be very critical and germane that you peacefully would want to talk about. And you see that the police will not even give you clearance to do that. And at this point, I would want to know if there is any constitutional backing to going to the police to get a clearance before you do your protest. I want you to talk about it. That's number one. Eventually, when people do their thing, protest, oftentimes it's peaceful, like in Imo State here. Oftentimes it may be peaceful, and you still see that some of them are arrested by the police. They won't let them have a fair hearing. Before you know what is happening, everybody goes to court and you're dumped in the correctional facility. It will now you now be at the mercy of people who work there, and some of us who do human rights intervention jobs, to begin to look out for those who were picked up and put in this. And it may take days before you even know that this person has been picked up and this person is at so and so place. So, my dear, I would want you to first clarify for me if there is any constitutional backing to getting clearance before protests are held. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Juliet. That's a very, very good one. So I'm just going to respond based on the regulations, right, that I am aware of. I know that in the past, there has been this conversation that the right to assembly is not subjected to any form of clearance, right? It's not subjected to any form of any further sign off or anything. However, under the Public Order Act, right, the power to regulate public meetings, rallies, processions, protests was exclusively vested in the governors of the respective states of the federation, right? It's vested on the governor, right? So really the police cannot even give you that order except the governor approves it, except the governor authorizes it. So in other words, the what's it called? The clearance itself is not even coming from the police itself. It's coming from the governor's office, really. I'm following the act to what the act says. And this is also based on decided cases, right? However, my own personal opinion would be that if your aim for a rally, for a protest, is to bring about change, is to see to it that things are done differently, is to bring about a bigger, change or whatever in the future, I don't think that taking the steps to obtain whatever clearance it is to avoid the people that you have called out from their houses to come and join you to protest, I don't think that taking the steps to obtain that clearance, that's if they don't unreasonably withhold it. Because I know the people who have gone to protest and they've actually obtained the clearance. They've guaranteed that it will be peaceful, they will not destroy public property, and they've also put themselves down as guarantors in case anything happens. So I think that if that's a requirement within a state, I don't know. I mean, you might have a different opinion. For the interest of the people who you have called out, the protection of those people, their lives, their well-being, if it is that okay, get this police clearance, and that's what will make us not come and start shooting or start throwing tear gas or actually start harming people, then I think that if your goal is really to protest and see to it that things are changed, then why not? Why not? Why not? Because the issue with these things is it is when that casala finally busts, when something bad happens, I will not start arguing, oh, you not get clearance. Why did you not get clearance? My right is my right. But the problem has already happened. So whether you argue from now to tomorrow, someone has probably lost their lives, or someone has been harmed, or someone has, you get what I'm saying? So why not just get the clearance and then focus on the goal of the protest? If it is that you're not actually trying to be destructive, or you're not actually trying to, you know, trespass or do something harmful. Is it clearance? Okay, fine. Get the clearance. It's just like this whole issue. I think that law has changed recently. I'm not sure. I know that when I was practicing family law, it was a problem with women when they wanted to travel out, especially women that were not married to their children's fathers. The immigration will say the father must write a letter. The father must approve, and then you find women coming to come and be arguing, it's my right, it's my right. I'm like, what is the real goal of this thing? Maybe you want to take your child abroad for study or for treatment. Why don't you just, maybe his letter is approval. Why don't you just get the approval and then let your focus be on the actual big thing in front of you, instead of having this back and forth. Meanwhile, someone is actually suffering. The child is actually suffering, right? And then you fight the fight later when you're more at peace, and when you can lend your voice in a rational way. We'll have the conversation. We'll look back into the laws. We'll go through the right medium, right? Is it to go through our legislative representative? Okay, please call this law out because it's a problem. Actually fight in an intelligent manner. It's not when you are out protesting that you now want to be changing the law and saying, oh, you don't have a right when people are being shut down. So that would be my opinion anyway. But I hear you. I hear you, Juliet. Okay, so I think we can move on to the next question. Thank you, everyone that spoke. Really good points. Thank you. What can young people do to defend their civic and political rights? So from all what you've heard and all what you've learned so far about, your participation in politics, the role that you play, and all of this information, what do you think you can do to defend your civic and political rights? Let's go with Isa Mohammed.
Okay. So I've asked you to unmute. Please unmute.
Yeah, good evening, sir. Thank you for the lecture. I think by my understanding of the violation of rights, I see it that the aspect that talk about the right to contest election or to vote is abused in Nigeria. How can I become a contestant of the presidential election when I have to buy a form of 100 million naira for another party, for example? So the political leaders in Nigeria have made it difficult for us to exercise our civic right, particularly when it comes to contesting election across all political parties. So to me, they have already made us to relinquish that right of contesting election by way of putting the prices of their forms so high that you cannot even dream of contesting for a councillor, for a senator, or probably the president. I know of a political party that you have to pay 100 million for an election. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. I guess you're going back to the yeah, I guess you're going back to the previous question. Well, I don't know if you guys have done political parties yet, the class of political parties. That would also give you more insight into how political parties are formed and how they are governed. Really, with political parties, you can't really tell them, their rules and regulations, how much they sell their forms is not something that is regulated by the Electoral Act, right? So the political parties are at liberty to place their candidature forms at whatever amounts they decide on, right? So it's now on you to say, okay, this one is so expensive. Let me go and do my own. Let me go to another political party. So it's really not mandatory for you to be in those political parties. You can form your own, or you can go to the other ones that you feel like, okay, this one's better serve my ideology, So when it comes to that one of, okay, the monies, I agree that they are very exorbitant and very ridiculous. And it eliminates a whole number of possible candidates. But again, those political parties, they have their own internal governance. So it's only those people there that can affect the constitution of that political party. It's not you and me that are not even part of it yet. So that's what I would say to that. But let's go to the second question. What can young people do to defend their civic and political? I'm really interested in hearing some points on how we feel like we can play our own part in defending our civic and political rights.
Let's take Ismaila Adam. I've asked you to unmute. Ismaila. Ismaila, are you there?
Yes, sir. I'm there, man. Yes, sir. Good evening, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. For the question on what the youths can do and other young people in protecting their civic and political rights in Nigeria, I think the best or the number one thing that we all should do as young people in Nigeria is educating ourselves. Just like the lecture we had yesterday, a day before yesterday, about people not knowing their rights. I think that's the biggest problem. Some of the things, I'm just hearing them for the first time after joining this ECN cohort. So I think the biggest challenge as far as Nigeria is concerned, and the biggest challenge to us, the youth, protecting our rights, is our ignorance of what our rights are actually are. So the number one step is educating ourselves and then creating awareness to other young people so that we all should know our rights and then fight for those our rights. And then the second thing is our participation. We have we have poor participation, especially when it comes to politics. So I think the young people, although we recently had the not too young to run bill and things like that, but still the youth's participation in politics in Nigeria is very poor. So I think these are the two major areas as far as I am concerned where the youths can do something and then protect their rights in Nigeria. Thank you, and over.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you. Fantastic contribution. Yes, I think as well that the first thing on the list is to be informed, is to be educated in any capacity, however you want to participate or defend that right, even have the knowledge of where that right starts and stops and how that right affects you and the next person. So fantastic contribution. Thank you very much for that. So we can take one more person and then we take the last question and close. Any lady in honor of International Women's Day?
No lady raising up their hand.
Oh, wow. Okay. We can take Maxwell.
Maxwell, I've asked you.
Hello. Okay, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
All right, thank you, facilitator, for the evening, for an insightful session. I think what young people need to do, I'll leverage on what the last speaker said. First of all is education. We cannot attest to ignorance. Ever since we joined the cohort, a lot of things have been said in our lessons here that have opened a lot of ways, that have opened our eyes to the reality in Nigeria. A lot of persons don't understand the true essence of the constitutions and the laws that are governing us as a country. So you cannot give out what you don't know or have. So first of all is to educate ourselves. First of all, know the constitution, know your right first. Then secondly, active participation in politics. If you don't join, if you fold your arms and sit one place, you cannot effect the change you so dream of. So by actively participating in political activities, we can cause change as young people. Then in areas where we feel we've been cheated or there have law breaking incidences, we should look out to the judiciary. We should be liberal. We should go to take our cases. Don't take laws in your hands. So with this, I feel we have a chance to make change in our immediate communities and Nigeria at large. So these are the ways I feel as young people we can contribute to our development as a nation. Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome. I think that's a beautiful way to wrap up that conversation. Stay educated and lend your voice, participate. Again, I always tell people this is the only country that you can lay claim to, even if you go on to have second citizenships in other countries or whatever. On face value, you are a Black person and you'll be attributed to Africa, right? So except you want to plaster your citizenship on your forehead, you will be identified as a Black person, as an African, especially when some of us will have very heavy accents. When you open your mouth, maybe you go and get a French passport. You open your mouth to speak, like, this one is not our personal, So this is our country, and it's our responsibility to build it up. I understand it's not always the most pleasant experience that we have, but we still have to show up over and over and over again. We cannot leave our country in the hands of people that are going to, destroy for us, because it's our legacy. It's a country that will live for our children. It's a country that we get married in. It's a country that we bear children in. It's a country that we make businesses in, and we make money and all the things. So we need to show up, no matter how frustrated we are. We need to show up more informed, show up more educated, get all the knowledge that you need, and show up well. And when you have conversations, have intelligent conversations. Don't just argue just to be heard. Speak like someone who is informed with facts. Now you know your rights as a citizen of Nigeria. So when you're out there with all the information that you're hearing here in the electoral college, you should be able to, make a change, even convince other people to see things from a more educated perspective. All right. So let's take the last question. Thank you, everyone. I really enjoyed this class and your contributions. Very, very insightful. So lastly, how can citizens hold leaders accountable beyond elections? Beyond elections. If you notice, I spoke a lot about the fact that our responsibility does not stop. Our responsibility does not stop after our responsibility does not stop immediately when a person is elected. So how do you think that you and I can hold our leaders accountable beyond elections? There are lots of hands up. Anyone can unmute, really.
I'll take Amin Muhammad.
Okay.
Amin Muhammad, I've asked you to. Amin, are you there?
Good evening, everyone. Please, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Okay, so I think how young people can hold elected leaders accountable beyond election is young people should actively track government policies, budget, and legislative activities to ensure that leaders are delivering their campaign promises. I remember under one of our platforms, Ready to Lead Africa, there is one program that we had, Follow the Promises. They can do this by following the National Assembly proceedings, state budgets, and local government policies, and then also engaging with civil society organizations like all these Yaga Africa, Budget IT, can provide access to policy report and tools for tracking. And another thing is the issue of this social media. Youth have to leverage social media for civic pressure because social media platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram have become like powerful tools for demanding accountability. All these hashtag campaigns, viral videos, online petitions can expose government failures and force leaders to respond. For example, during the NSAS movement, we all know young Nigerians use social media to document police brutality and push for policy changes. And lastly, I can say using legal means in such a way that when leaders violate laws or fail to uphold citizens' rights, young people can collaborate with lawyers and human rights organizations to take legal actions. Public interest lawsuits, all this freedom of information requests, and petition to anti-corruption agencies such as IPCB, ICPC, and EFCC can help expose mismanagement and enforce the rule of law. So elected leaders must not only be accountable during elections, but also throughout their tenure. So young people have the power to demand transparency, expose corruption, and also influence policy decision. But the most important thing is for the young people to stay engaged, and they have to leverage political. They have to leverage technology, and they have to use legal and civic tools. They can ensure that leaders serve the people effectively, because democracy thrives when citizens, especially the youth, refuses to be silent spectators. Thank you.
Fantastic. I mean, a fantastic contribution. I think that you've said quite a lot, and even went on to list out, bodies and associations where people can join. I know that I am also a member of Budget It. I receive their emails every now and then. They're doing a very fantastic work in informing, keeping us abreast. If a bill is being passed, we are rightfully informed. So Thank you very much. I think that was a really good part, a really good contribution. So we can take one more and then we can close. Haruna.
Haruna, that's good.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Haruna Sabogombo from Borno State. Hope you are hearing me, please.
We can hear you. Go on.
Okay. Well, even though most of my colleagues have indeed contributed well, but my aspect of contribution will go to will a little bit divert because they have already talked about knowledge or information to be equipped with knowledge. And this civil society of a thing, utilizing social media and so on. But, just like I said, I'm from Borno State. I think extreme end of the Northeast. So one aspect that we youth should, and as a matter of fact, must do is to economically be empowered, even if you have the knowledge or you have been informed or but this, as far as we are concerned, once as a youth you are not economically empowered, there are so many ways that you will be crippled. Even if, for example, let's just take an example of these political parties of a thing. No matter how a political party at least give upper hand to the youth, reduce their fees, and so on and so forth. For example, in my local government, Kwekusa local government in Southern Borno, I have 10 wards in my local government. So for me to at least go around this 10 wards just to interact with my ward escorts, for example, throughout these 10 wards, I can spend not less than 1 million plus just to go and visit escorts because right from the headquarters of the local government to one extreme end of the world, you can travel like 2 hours on a bike, on motorcycle. So if Mr. A, B, and Lady C will accompany me just to go there, for example, I'm a candidate or I'm aspiring to be a candidate, just to go and see my ward executive, interact with them before even meeting to the delegate and so on and so forth. You see, if I'm not being economically empowered, I don't have something to do or my earnings are low, so automatically I have a big roadblock that even if a political party A or B give me free ticket, so for me to get the machinery that will at least help in campaigning, help in selling my ideas, my party's idea, my ideology, or what we stand for, or what the youth can do and cannot do, is really, really worrisome. But if I and my colleague, or most of my colleagues, are somehow empowered, we have the knowledge, we can leverage the social media, we have connection with various civil society groups. Think of it, how it will go, even if once a youth didn't win, but he can give a good run for a good, he can play an active campaign, and in fact he can even somehow open the eyes of his constituency or his people very well, to the extent that if Mr. A wins, he can still keep on and continue, and the people can begin to ask questions, query him, and so on and so forth. So my own experience, like I earlier said, is the youth should try their possible best to have something doing, to earn something, to be economically empowered is of additional advantage. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you very much, Haruna. Honestly, I feel very elated and proud to hear that, you're doing something, like you're actively doing something that can bring about a change. Talking about going to visit, taking bike rides, 2 hours and all the things. I know that even out there in the north, it's a lot, there are a lot more challenges in terms of, accessing these politicians and even interacting with them. They're not as closely or as you don't have that much of an access. So you actually have to do more and be very intentional. So I'm very, very happy to hear that, people are taking on initiatives to do, things like this on their own. And I agree with you, Haruna, that we can't wait for handouts. We can't always wait for handouts. We have to be economically empowered. There's a lot of things that we can start doing on our own, that we don't have to, wait to be given empowerment or to be financially empowered. If we actually are able to fend for ourselves, start up businesses, get busy, get educated, get jobs, some of these conversations will have it in a more intentional and productive fashion. If you're talking to someone and the person is not even understanding some of the terms you're using, it's harder for you to even communicate. So I totally agree with you, Haruna. Getting educated, even getting the basic education in school, and then coming out and getting that political literacy, and also finding work for yourself, being economically empowered, it goes a long way. It goes a long way. It even gives you a seat at the table. Sometimes when you're not working, it's almost as if you don't even have the confidence to even say anything, to even make comments, because you just feel like I can't stand with people that are having these conversations. So I absolutely agree with you. Thank you, everyone. I really, really appreciate everyone's contribution. This has been a very fantastic class. Thank you, Peter, for assisting and helping out with the entire class. I think we can close for now. I hope that you all continue and up until your graduation. It's a fantastic opportunity, like I said earlier. So please don't take it for granted. There's a lot you can learn here that can give you a really good foundation into the political terrain of our country. So thank you, everyone. Have a good evening. Over to you, Peter. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just considering our time, I had a question before. I don't know if you can take it.
Oh, okay. I was also trying to consider time as well, but yeah, go ahead.
I think it's going to be the last thing we're going to discuss because of the time.
Okay. Yeah, please go ahead.
It's about in the beginning of the class, you mentioned political and civil rights of Nigerians, and the first thing you mentioned there was right to life, which I agree with Margaret that that's the most abused right of Nigeria. I don't know if you've heard of there's a farmer from Adamawa State. His name is Sunday Jackson.
Sunday Jackson.
Yes, he was sentenced to death. And what happened was that he was on his farm and the Fulani headsman attacked him, and he struggled to defend himself, and then used the attacker's machete to kill him. Now, the Supreme Court ruled that even though he defended himself and used the attacker's machete to kill him, he will be sentenced to death by hanging. The Supreme Court of Nigeria. I saw it on Arise TV this afternoon. I don't know, thank God you're also a minister at the Temple of Justice. What would you say about this? Saying, there's a saying that the court is the last hope of the citizens or of the common people. What would you advise this person to do, or the average Nigerian to do in this case, when the last hope has failed?
That's a really heavy question. So I just did a quick search on that name, and yes, you're right. That's actually a really an ongoing thing. And so I'm not sure, has the sentence been executed?
No, I don't think so. Not
Okay.
yet, because
yes. I think that what's going on, like the conversation should be louder, because honestly I haven't heard of it. I think conversation should be louder than it is right now, because when a matter has already gotten to the Supreme Court, that's the final port of call.
Final hope.
Exactly. So the only thing from experience and seeing how things like this happen, the only thing that can actually get them to take another look is when we attract international attention. international attention. So getting that international eyes and conversation ongoing, I think it would.
I think they said they will appeal it to the national court because there's one
Yes.
national human rights at XVII. I've forgotten his name. So he's on top of the matter.
Yes. So that's a good way to go. Just see, media is a powerful tool, very powerful tool, very, very powerful. If we use it right, if we use it in an informed way, we can achieve a lot. We can achieve a lot. And again, we find that a lot of Nigerians are now online. So it's something that is a tool that can really, really use to make a change. I don't know. I'll probably need to look at the facts of the case because it's very unusual that this sort of decision would happen, especially when it's a clear case of self-defense. I'm not sure why that was upheld, but I'll look at it. Thank you, Peter, for raising that. That's a really good point. Thank you. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
DED, I don't know if there's any announcement.
No, none at all. Thank you so much, Uchechi. This has been a very enlightening and interesting class. Thank you for always being available. I trust the students got value and knowledge. Thank you for your time.
Thank
you,
you,
everyone. And classes continue tomorrow. So I'll just allow them on mute to say thank you before we end the class.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So
much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Happy International Women's Day.
Thank you very much, Ma.
Thank you very much.
Ama!